What if you could sit down once a week with a colleague who's a flat-out warrior? This colleague wasn't a stud in dental school. He struggled. He returned to practice in his hometown, an area once labeled by USA Today as the second worst place to live economically in the United States. And this very same colleague went on to establish an historically successful general practice known worldwide. What if you knew someone that wanted to take you by the hand and show you everything you need to know, from treatment planning to leadership, to maximizing your journey in dentistry, or just life? You ready to be inspired? Welcome to the Lionhearted.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Steve Rasner, and welcome back to the Lionhearted Dental Podcast. This week, we're going to do an exercise that too many of you don't do enough. And I want you to think about it because I really believe it's going to help you improve your dental practice. And the question I have for you tonight, by the way, before I always forget my housekeeping. I am still working towards a 2023 live weekend. I even hired a meeting planner who's very experienced, but I do things very deliberately. And I know all of you certainly can't come the one date I select, so I'm trying to really think it out and get as many of you there as possible, including my friends from around the world that listen to this podcast weekly. And thank you, UK, for tuning in so big lately. And all of you. So this is what I want to talk about tonight. Have you ever thought of your dental practice, whether you're an associate or whether you own it or you're a partner, have you ever thought of it as a business? And spare me the self-righteous, you went to school for 12 years and you're a doctor, and no, you never think of it as a business, you're a healthcare provider. That's a crock of you know what. You can be the best healthcare provider on the planet, unless you're in a non-for-profit, you are running a business. And it's good for you to think of it that way because it's a better way to improve everything, certainly including your self-satisfaction of all these hours and years and time you're putting in to this thing. Okay, so let's say you are a business. Let's start with this. Think about all the businesses. Do this exercise. Think about all the businesses you go to and that you return to them in your particular communities. Why? Why do you return to, everything from where you do your banking, your physician, your laundromat, the place that takes care of your pets if you have pets, where you do your food shopping. I mean it. I want you to think about all these things. Where you order your pizza from. And I know some of you are just sitting there hating on me right now, saying to your friends or whoever, now Rasner's comparing dentistry to pizza parlors. He kind of is doing that. But let's talk about it. Let's be serious, because we can look and reflect on what we're doing every day we spend. Those of you that have your own practice and those of you who are pondering having your own practice, it is a lifetime commitment of your time and energy and money. And wouldn't it be great if you were the best around? People drove and found ways to come to you even after they moved hours away. Some of you are saying right now, that already happens. That's a good sign. It's a good sign. Sometimes it helps, is what I'm saying, to get away for a few moments from the micron margins of your crowns to your implant integration protocols and think about the bigger picture, because if you run it right, it makes everything else you do, including your clinical care, better. It does. So let's talk about the businesses we all go back to. Why? Well, let me guess. First of all, you like their product. You do. I mean, how many restaurants have we all been to before? And the food wasn't right. I haven't been to many, and I'm pretty easy to please. But I have one in my mind right now that I won't go back. I ordered a steak, and a steak tasted bad. And you know what? The service was impeccable. I wanted to like them. I did. Because it was a small, newer business restaurant near where I live. And it's right on the water. It was small enough that, and you can probably relate to this, I knew the owners. I mean, they weren't friends of mine. I knew who they were. They actually, the wife, who is the owner, came to my table and served the meal. I mean, you couldn't be more personal. Lovely. Man, but the food wasn't right. And contrast that with, there's so many businesses we've all been to, but part of it is you have to like their product. So how's your product? I mean it. We all are not going to get 100% satisfaction from the people we treat. And what's worse, when you're a dentist like we are, it seems that the ones you can, oh my God, I'm so hard on myself, and I know many of you are as well. I don't know what my ratio of success is, but I know I can remember every failure, whether it is a denture that the patient didn't like. I'm in the middle right now of my 5th wax try-in on a patient. And you know what? I don't even know what she doesn't like anymore. She can't articulate it correctly because she's such a frustrated human being in general. I mean this. I have no business saying this on this podcast, but I'm sharing it because I know we all try for perfection or the top of the line of excellence. Certainly most of the people that listen to this podcast do that. And so I understand, and I need you to eliminate the outliers and the aberrations, but for the most part, how's your product? I mean, look, we all know there's often a dentist or two in a community who somehow their patients end up in your chair. And not everybody is the same. I don't know how to say this. And sometimes I have seen things. I had a patient in my chair today. True story. He went to another dentist who's got $1 million personality. I mean, this guy, any one of you listening to me, if you met him, you'd love this guy. And the case was in my office today on a fixed implant bridge that a couple of the implants had broken. And there was a total of 5 implants at one point. 2 were broken. You could see it on the radiograph. And there was a cantilever posteriorly of 4 teeth. I mean, it's unacceptable. And that is a violation. That's not even, I didn't like your product, but there's certain prosthetic protocols that you just never could violate. You might stretch it a little bit, but none of you would, I don't think, would hang a 4-tooth zirconia cantilever off the distal of an implant. So I'm not picking here. So how's your product? Does your crowns just come off more than you think they should? Your new crowns. Do you feel fearful sometimes because you missed a serious diagnosis. I'm talking like periodontal disease. So, backing up, how do you think the public likes your product? Obviously, it's very important. How important is price? I can tell you for a fact that price is fairly low on the list, not of all people. I always say this in my live lectures. If you raise your fees 1%, which is silly, nobody would ever do that. But if you did, you will lose some people with a 1% raise. So you can't live and drive your business based on the price itself. And we've had full podcasts on this subject. And it's very important that you train hard, put together an organization that warrants top fees. Because when you have the fees you deserve, there's so many positive dominoes from that, which include being benevolent, doing more work for the community, taking your time, slowing down. You don't live in that world when your fees are right. You don't live in a world that you have to jam in extra procedures all day because your fees are competitive and you don't need as many procedures. But you have to earn that. And we've talked about that. You know why else people return to businesses? Very important. They like their products. The business is available. They're open. Okay, well, you and I can't open 24 hours a day, and that is a very hard one, to be quite honest with you, to guide you on. Because in the beginning of your career, I would implore you to be available, which means I would implore you to do whatever it took to allow your community to know in the first couple of years that you exist. That means some nights. That might mean one Saturday a month. And let me tell you right now, you know I talk to you real. They suck. Nights suck. Weekends particularly are terrible. Because if it's a beautiful Saturday, you're going to have a lot of cancellations. And while your family's home understanding that you are trying to start and nurture this business, which you have to do, it stinks when you wasted a day of your life, but it's going to happen. It's not hard. These are reasons why we return to businesses. It's not hard to talk to a human. Now, that's a big one that a lot of you violate. I think it's not exaggeration that 25% of the dentists that I call, I cannot reach. I'm reaching a tape that's telling me if I have an emergency to call such a number, or that you're out to lunch, or that I'm supposed to be impressed. You're working on another patient, so you can't answer the phone right now. Well, quit being so cheap and hire a high school kid or somebody recently graduated to help with the phones. People like live voices. They like humans. Another reason why people return to businesses and will return to you is because you respond quickly when you make a request. My temporary's out. I have pain up here. Can I see the doctor? The number one way for you to lose a patient is not to track who's calling and call them back 4 hours after they call. So, you know, I've endlessly spoke about the book I wrote called The Protocol Book. And in that protocol book, one of the protocols is returning the phone call within the hour. So we have a whole system, and I've been over this before. It's when the front desk team is trained to take incoming information. And I mean, it's got to be as thorough. They have to be trained to make it thorough. A crown's out. I mean, they're literally on the phone asking them. I hear it all the time. And I don't think it's obnoxious. I think it's helpful. Is it upper or lower, sir? Is it to right or left? Is it toward the back or front? Could you count and get us close? And we're looking at the chart seeing if we had recommended treatment in that area, or trying to get it. Sometimes I would say 20% of the time, if it involves a crown that is out, we have them take a photograph of that crown because it prepares us better once they arrive. And that's called an orange sheet, which really means an emergency sheet in my office. And yes, after 42 years, Steve Rasner will not be very pleased if he sees a orange sheet that somebody forgot about, put it on a back burner, move that chart. It's orange, by the way, like neon orange. So that if I walk past the front desk portion of my office, it just sends a message to me that says, read me, or has me say, has this been taken care of? You see, I lectured a long time, I still do. And one of my early slides said, everything counts. It does. And getting back to your patients, or that other businesses would call customers, is really a prized part of loyalty of those patients to your practice. Other things, other reasons why you go to the businesses. Let me just recapitulate. I said number one, you like the product. If everything else is right, but the product, the reason you went there, you're a dog groomer, they're friendly, it's a nice looking operation, but your dog comes back nicked or doesn't smell that good, or it's less than you expected, then that's it. On any product you select. I mean, it's not going to happen in a bank. I think when you get into those services or law type of services, what kind of lawyer you're going to retain, a lot of it has to do with the value and priority you think that firm makes you feel. And that's very important in what you and I do. Other things that I think are really important in businesses that I return to, and I think it's equally important in what you and I do, very much so, is that no one ever sounds half interested at anything you are requesting, as in never. That is an automatic, you're in trouble in my office. And to be honest with you, it never happens. It all comes back, guys, honestly. And here we are, I feel, again, talking after work one night about things that I think are just so critical. It all comes back to how you hire people from the beginning. When you're at that interview with this new potential employee, I say, listen, you don't know me. We just met. So there's no reason this is how I talk. There's no reason for me to hold back here, because by holding back, I'm just going to waste your time and mine. This is the kind of business where every time you come in here, I'm going to expect the best from you in terms of attitude, positive energy, willingness to want to help others. And your role in helping others is going to be checking them out. I'm talking about a front desk person. Helping them find an appointment. Maybe giving them directions to a different place of business or something that's even connected to us. The moment that ever sounds you're half in is a big problem. And I would say that. I would absolutely say that. So in our practice, and I'm sure in many of yours, people being half in is not a thing. Because I eliminated that possibility either at the interview or and then here's the follow-up to that, is to be incredibly diligent to what is this new person about. I go over and say things like, listen, I know people get sick, but this practice doesn't do well with people that call out a lot. It just doesn't. If that's your MO, and I don't know if that is, I'd hope, and most people most candidates are going to say, oh, no, I show up all the time. I'm incredibly reliable. And I can't tell you how many people said that to me and called out within 2 weeks of their first 2 weeks with me. Another important thing is that your place is a happy place to do business. And I really mean this. When I go into Starbucks, which we finally have in our town, you would think that they're just like their employees are just rolling in money or something that makes them incredibly happy. I mean it. They're not only pleasant and positive, know my name when I come in, they're pleasant to each other. And that is an important part of attracting people to your business. Think about it for a minute. Think about it. You're a dental practice in town. Your product is good. Your systems are good. Okay? Stay with me. Your people have a good vibe feeling to them to other people. They smile. They look like they're happy to be there. Right? I've been in most businesses, particularly in the medical profession, whether I go to a specialist or I'm almost intimidated sometimes or have to bite my lip how average service is projected towards me, like they are doing me a favor. So a happy place of business is a place where people want to come back. And by the way, want to refer their friends too. You're on time. Oh, I love that. You know the expression, under promise and over deliver? Time is a beautiful expression of that as an example. Being on time is, whether it's hygiene or the doctor, is just huge. We've had this conversation and I'm going to stick by it. Another thing is they get answers, not excuses. So let me give you some examples of this. And I'm going to tell you something. Years ago, when I was first feeling what it felt like to have a Lionhearted practice, when I say that to you, I mean a successful practice where you're productive. There's never significant slumps. It doesn't feel like luck anymore. You have arrived as a Lionheart. Okay? I can remember feeling that we're doing this. It must feel like that if you're a championship caliber sports team, as opposed to the rebuilding teams. They're having and accepting off years. It's really fun on the ride up. And I bought a lot of books back then. I have 2 of them in front of me tonight. They're old. This one's called Customers for Life. How to Turn That One-Time Buyer into a Lifetime Customer. It's a car dealer who wrote this book. His name is Carl Sewell, Sewell. It's 20 years old. And I'd buy a lot of books. I would go to Barnes and Nobles or whatever the bookstores were at their heyday, and I would go to the business section. I would read what makes customers come back. And I know ours are not called customers. I know they're called patients. But I don't know if you're getting this tonight. Maybe I'm not. It is after work, and I am a little bit tired and definitely in pain. I'm having surgery in 3 weeks. But the concept I'm trying to give you tonight was to look at your practice as a business. And is it the kind of business, okay, where people want to return? Because the thing that will kill you over time is the old concept of losing people out the back door. In other words, they came to you for a year or 2 or 3 or more, and they're gone. And you're not sure why they're gone. So what you need to do, what your challenge is have you checked off all the things I've responded to that I put out in front of you tonight? Are you a happy dental practice? Or do you have a vampire on the staff? You know who the vampire is. You probably inherited the vampire from the practice when you bought it. She or he has been there forever. And they are miserable. Okay, they never on board with new ideas. They rarely attend meetings. They always have this amazing pre-appointment, so they can't attend a meeting while you're trying to really become this Lionhearted practice and put all this time into it. They amazingly can't make it. They're hot and cold. They're disrespectful to staff, even you. You know what I'm talking about. And let me tell you something. That one person I'm alluding to takes pride and pleasure in bringing as many people down to a negative place. Can you see me right now? Most of you cannot. I'm frowning. I'm growling because I'm thinking of the people in my past that did that, and I'd put up with it. But there was a limit, and I eliminated them over my years, and you should too, because your practice will be as only happy as the lowest common denominator. Get rid of the one. Get rid of them. Or give them a chance to... Look, attitude's a hard thing to change. I'm just being honest. It is. And so, I'm off the track again, of course. But do you have a happy place? Are you on time? Or is your place immaculate? It may not have waterfalls in the reception room. I don't have any fancy art. I don't have 12-foot pictures of beautiful smiles. My waiting room, my reception room, looks like a spa. The lighting's dimmed. The furniture's comfortable and very lovely. The colors are calming. There's a giant snack bar that people steal stuff from. When I say steal, when they leave, they fill up their pockets with my refreshments. I guess it's part of doing business. But continuing what I'm saying to you, do you have a practice? Do you nickel and dime people? That's a huge, huge part of running a good business. I do not. You know why I don't have to nickel and dime? Because we get appropriate fees. Because I'm not afraid to charge what I believe we have established as the premier place for patients to get dental care. So I'm not embarrassed by it. A little bit. And I don't have to nickel and dime people on their services. I cannot begin to tell you how many times we provide services daily, that I don't charge for. I mean, today I was prepping teeth numbers 5, 6, and 7 on a patient, and I missed a little spot of buccal decay at the cervical of number 8. And I just did it. And I think it's important that you tell the patient when you do these things, or a patient that's been a great patient of mine for years that wants me to look at number 5 that feels off to them, and we take a periapical and I look at them. Maybe it takes me 5 or 10 minutes. Nope. I don't even send it in to insurance. Well, I can't because I don't take insurance. Things like that. I've been over this with you before. I fixed teeth on a denture, even not my denture. A tooth came off. I mean, that's not nickel and diming. And I think lastly, it's important to be honorable. And it's the price of doing business. I will always err on the patient's side. Even if I lose the patient, I will always err on their side. Meaning, look, if a patient came into us and an implant was in trouble that we placed, and it's less than 5 years, and they've come for their hygiene recalls. I mean, this happens. There's not even a question in my mind that if I consider it to be a failure, I would remove it, do it over at no charge, and consider it the cost of business. That's a patient that is maintained, hygiene, recall, etc. So, putting this all together, what kind of business place are you on the road to establishing? Why would you not want to be the best in your community? Whether you're listening to me in Mexico tonight, Norway, South Korea, Australia, certainly every European country, and the United States and Canada. Why would that not ever be your number one goal? And we have to figure out a way to get you there in 2023. And it's layers of actions that you have to take. One thing I did not mention to you that is important is feedback. I got to be honest. A lot of times when I do these podcasts with you, I actually forget that we stopped protocols that allowed us to reach this high level we've practiced at for many years. And one of them was feedback from the patients. We literally would do a phone call or take a few minutes to do a survey. And it's hard to do that. It's humbling. It's not easy to look at a person and say, how did you make out? Were we what we, and I have somewhere in my files a written protocol post-treatment survey that we used to give the patients. We did. I can't say that we even do it anymore, and there's no good reason I can give you why we don't. But you need to know how you're performing. And you know, it sounds like a lot of work, but it's actually fun. It is. You know, I had a patient say to me today, it was this insert of a partial denture over 4 teeth and 3 teeth and 4 implants. Zest locators, not a fancy case. And he said the music to my ears that I know all of you can relate to. And he was done. He was inserted in. He didn't have to say another thing. He said, I can't express to you how grateful I am that somehow our paths crossed and I ended up in your office. It has been everything and more than I thought it could be. And I know I never received great care. I mean, I asked him, I said, oh my God, stop. Let me put this on video. And I know you guys can relate to that story. And it's important that that's what we aspire to because it fuels. Look, you're not going to get a second chance to wind this thing all over again. I'm 68 years old. I'm trying to end my run, whatever that is. I don't know when it is, you know, in glory, not fade out half in. And most of you are much younger than me. Why would you not possibly want to be the best and do everything you can to attest to that? And that does require feedback and follow-up from your patients. So I know a little bit, I got off the subject, but I think it's important sometimes to get away from the clinical nature of what you and I do each day and just ask yourselves, what kind of organization am I putting together? Hey guys, thanks. I appreciate you. See you next week. And happy holidays on the Lionhearted podcast.